Hey, Barbara. Thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful that we get to interview you. I would love if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you, Courtney. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, my name is Barbara Mojica. I am a parent, a grandparent, a historian, a author, and I am also a retired educator who has spent more than 40 years in the field of education. So now that I have quote retired, although not really, because I think I work more hours now than I did when I was formerly working. I am combining my passions and writing books for children. So I spent many years studying history. I've always been an explorer or somebody always interested in finding out what makes people tick and all the places in the world and why someone would want to go there and exactly what they found when they got there. So I am trying to reignite an interest in history and use that combined with my experience in education to make learning about history a fun experience, something that will entertain, something that will educate, and hopefully something that will inspire children to use some of that information to become informed citizens and the leaders of tomorrow.
Amazing. I would love if you could tell us more about what your books are about.
Well, okay, so my books are nonfiction, but I use a fun character to make the books very interactive to involve children in the process of learning. And in order to do that, this character is kind of draws them in. I want children to kind of see themselves a little bit like this character. So she's a cartoon like character. And the way this happened is when I decided I wanted to write books for children, my husband said, well, how are you going to approach that? And I said, I really want to make this fun and entertaining. And knowing that my husband is an artist and an illustrator, I figured he could help me along those lines. So what he did is he said, "Oh, I'll create a cartoon-like character who could be that narrator." So he created this cartoon-like character who we call Little Miss History, and she is a younger version of me. So she is optimistic. She wears rose colored glasses. She tries to see the world in a positive light. She is a adventurer. She wears kind of a park ranger, hiker, camper kind of outfit. And she is someone who is interested in nature, someone who is interested in people. And she also wears these huge hiking boots that are in memory of my father. So she's a real con- conglomerate of me, a younger me who is also kind of a little bit of the bits and pieces of my personality. So Little Miss History is the narrator. And through this narrator, I hope to get the kids involved in really doing some critical thinking about what they learn. And by critical thinking, I'm not using the word critical in the sense of being judgmental or arbitrary, but critical in the sense of being open minded, being uh, a person who is looking at all sides of a question, who's bringing in all the information, who can test theories, who can look at the connections between people and between events and between things. So that's what I mean by critical thinking. Someone who spends a lot of time thinking about how we get to an answer, not just the facts, because history to me is not a bunch of facts or a collection of miscellaneous events and dates and times. History, in the Greek sense of the word, means to inquire, to look into. And when we tell stories, we are looking into ourselves, looking into our families, looking into our communities, and trying to understand, putting all of the information we get, what happened in the past helps us to understand where we are today. So we can't possibly understand where we are today if we don't know how we got here. And then understanding how we got here helps us to kind of put all the pieces together and hopefully create a framework or uh, a kind of game plan for creating something better in the future. So that's kind of my approach. And in doing that, I come across all kinds of information about things that maybe are forgotten or lost in history. You know, little known events, little known facts, little things that um, might have happened to people that we may not have heard about. So I try to uh, take maybe something that we think you know a lot about and uncover the bits and pieces of information that we hadn't thought about before.
Amazing. What inspired you to write your books?
Well, I don't think that we teach enough history today. History is more or less forgotten until you get to high school, and then everything is crammed into a one-year course on world history or American history, and we we don't take the time to look at ourselves as part of so many different communities. We're a part, our family is one community that we're a part of, and we have a history with our family. And then there's that local community where we live, the people we interact with every day in our schools, in our churches, in our culture as we move about in the community. And then we're also part of that big worldwide community. And I think that when we understand history, we understand how all of those things are related. We get a broader perspective. We understand not only our own culture, but we learn to understand the culture, the feelings, the beliefs, the everyday customs and traditions of other people as well. So, what inspired me to write? I really wanted to uh, introduce more people to what I think has been a very serious lack in our educational system.
Amazing. When you were writing your books, who were you thinking of when it comes to who your books are for?
Well, my books are for children, mainly in elementary and early middle school. They are geared toward a K-6 audience, but I was very surprised after I started writing them to find out that they had a wide appeal to the parents and the grandparents as well, partly because of the way I write them and the way I use not only a simple approach in the wording, but also the fact that they're multimedia. So the books are heavily illustrated. Not only do I have the Little Miss History character narrated, but within the books, I use photography. Uh, my husband and I generally visit all the sites. We have visited almost all of them. Of course, there are a few books that I have not visited the site, like my North Pole book, have not been to the North Pole. There are one or two where I haven't visited the sites, but in most cases I have. So we use our own photography. my illustrator husband he is able to draw portraits of people. So there's real hand drawn art, as well as the photography and the infusion of the character as well. So a picture book is the basic format. The reading level, however, is not the reading level for a very young child. Most of them, as far as an independent reading level, they're more of a grade 3 to 5 or 6. So the books kind of grow with the child when they're younger. They learn through the pictures and by asking questions, because my books are very geared toward that critical thinking, asking children to give their opinions and bringing them along with me as I tell the story. So in that way, they kind of grow with the child. And I've had parents and grandparents, telling me, "Oh, I really never knew. I learned so much from reading the book." So in that sense, it is really an experience that is meant for the whole family.
That's so amazing. I love that. How long have you been writing and what made you really sit down and start?
Well, I've been writing them about 12 years now. Uh, what made me start was just my mission to bring back history and to bring back a better understanding of ourselves and our culture. Uh, why I started at that particular time. After I retired, it was about May, not even a month later, I rapidly decided I was going to need to have something very structured in my life that just, pittering around the house and having one or two hobbies was not going to do it. So I decided this would be a good time to resume writing. Now, I've had been doing writing all my life as far as research, because having been a history major and an English minor, I did nothing but write. But those were academic pages, which, of course, were a very different thing from writing for children. So, of course, I had done curriculum writing, but I hadn't done anything as far as a more personalized individual, one-on-one type of teaching. So I I decided I wanted to write, but I was going to write for kids. And that's when I got together with my husband. He created the character for me, and we began. And book one and led to book two, and two led to book three, and so on. So here I am, about 12 years later, and I have a few books that are in rough draft form and a couple more on the way.
Amazing. What is your schedule like when you are writing a book?
Well, my schedule is pretty flexible because I, for the first step, of course, is to decide on the topic, which usually involves visiting a historic site. And that would be the first step, visiting, gathering photography. And then after that, I would begin writing the script. And in writing children's books, you edit, rewrite. So, in order to get the book down to that manageable picture book size, uh, there are lots of edits. So, I start with, again, more research after visiting the site, still a lot of research. And then taking all of that research, I don't work with an outline. I just gather all of my research and then I look at the research and I let it take me along the path. So, looking at the research, I can usually find a few threads that I can follow. I start writing. And then after I write, I start editing and I start refining and minimizing, deciding what is going to be the main kernel for each part of the book, because I my purpose is to give children a taste and to entice them into either visiting the site in person, if that's possible, or going off and independently researching a lot of the topics that I bring up. So I don't try to flood them with a bunch of information. I try to give them a pathway of exploration, again, to do more thinking and to uh, take the knowledge and to be able to then use that knowledge in a way that interests them and takes them forward. So even though my books are about history, they might go forward in very different ways, because some of my books talk about environment and science. So I can be talking about a place like Sequoia National Park, and we can get involved with the question of pollution and how it's one of the most polluted parks, and what causes that, and how could children get involved with finding some solutions for that? Or I can be talking about the La Brea tar pits, and we can be talking about prehistory. With that book, we talk about archaeology, but we're at a site where scientists are still actively working and uncovering fossils. So again, that book goes in a lot of different directions. If I'm talking about the North Pole, I can be talking about 8 different countries that have territorial interests in the Arctic. We could be talking about the whole idea of Santa Claus and how all of that came to be. We can be talking about a whole range of issues that are international in scope, or a book that's about military history and so many different areas. So we can be on a battleship on the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum. We can be talking about aircraft. We can be talking about the space program. We could be talking about one ship's role in so many different eras in our history. One ship that played a part in the Cold War, in the space program, in 9/11, in World War II. So, there are so many different directions that we can go in.
Amazing. What do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused?
I don't need very much. I basically need my computer. I need my library. I have a pretty extensive library of printed books on history, so I use that as well as my computer to do research. And basic writing materials. I don't have a very structured system of writing, because I go back to my writing and re-edit so many times. So I don't work from an outline. I just gather my research, I start writing, and then I go back to it and start refining. And then I have that additional step of adding the illustration. So when I'm all done with the manuscript, then we have to combine the photographs and the actual drawings. So that's a whole other step. So there are a lot of different levels that all don't take place at the same time. So one book generally takes me, I would say, 3 to 6 months from start to finish.
That's amazing. What is your favorite writing snack or drink?
Probably cheese and crackers or some kind of cheese or maybe some fruit like grapes.
Love that. What type of books do you personally enjoy reading?
I like, of course, history. I like historical fiction. I like epic books, kind of like, like something like Gene Auel and, like Clan of the Cave Bear and the Mammoth Hunters and James Mitchell. I don't, I'm not turned off by books that are 800 or 1,000 pages. Uh, if I'm really into a book, I'm into the book. So it doesn't matter whether it's a short story or whether it's a long Gone with the Wind type of novel. I like adventure books as well. I like legal books. I like books that involve law and legal theory. So I have a pretty diverse range of interests.
Love that. Are there any books or authors that inspired you to become a writer?
Wouldn't say one in particular. I've read most of the classics. I've read most of the Pulitzer prizes. I do enjoy books that go back in time as well as current books. So I wouldn't say there was really one in particular.
Um, what books did you grow up reading? Did you have an all-time favorite?
Growing up reading, well, again, I always loved to read, so I read pretty much everything. Uh, all the classics, of course, in school. Um, when I was very young, I loved the Disney books. I loved Bambi and Black Beauty, all of those. I didn't have one particular uh, interest. I wasn't all into one thing, so it was always very diverse with me.
Love,
If it looked interesting, I would pick it up and I would read it.
love that. On the opposite side of that, now as an adult, what are your favorite series or authors that if they come out with something, you automatically grab it?
I think I would go. My taste goes maybe has changed. I used to read all of the Stephen King or the Mitchner. I think today probably more like James Patterson, John Grisham, Clive Cussler, perhaps.
Love that. What would you tell someone just starting out with reading again?
I would say just read, read, read. Read everything you can get your hands on. Again, I don't think that parents should discourage a child from reading, no matter what their interest is, even if it's a comic book, whatever it is, a graphic novel, whatever the child is interested in, as long as the child is reading and it's age appropriate, I'd say, let them go for it.
Love that. On the other side of that, what would you tell someone just starting to write their own book?
Oh, I would tell them to have patience and to be persistent because it doesn't happen overnight, and there are so many people who get discouraged. There is just so much literature out there today, and it's sometimes seems impossible. I would say for a person who is just starting out, to just, if you have a passion for something, go with it and continue to write about it. It doesn't matter whether it's the quote popular thing right now. Uh, it's There's so much opportunity now for anybody to publish. I wouldn't get hung up with trying to get with a major publisher because uh, the odds of succeeding with that are almost zero. Publishers today, first of all, there are very few of them. They have gobbled each other up, and there are only a few companies left, and they have very definitive interests. They tend to go with whatever is currently popular in the market. And it's unlikely that you are going to be writing about what they're looking for at a given moment. So if you have a passion for something, I say just write about it. If it's important to you, then it's important for your message to get out there. If you're really, really serious about your passion, if you're just writing to try to sell a book, you're never really going to be successful because you have to be happy with yourself first. Uh, and you have to be committed to writing about something that's important to you, or to me, there's no purpose in writing it. So, uh, have the passion, be persistent, be patient, and just just keep going. Don't be discouraged.
Love that. What's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
I think most people see me as someone who's very quiet, uh, kind of introverted and shy. But I have another side to me. Really, in some respects, very adventurous, and I can be quite daring and do things that are sometimes rather risky at times. So, um, uh, I did some crazy things in my lifetime. Uh, I took chances. Like, as I said, I was always an adventurer and explorer. So I took myself to visit. Um, the Soviet Union and countries behind the Iron Curtain when they first opened travel to the West, and and it- that was a very, very enlightening experience. It's something that people kind of like looked at me like, "You're going where?" you know. Um, so every once in a while that surprises people about me because they think I'm kind of quiet and on the shy side, and maybe even a little introverted, but I'm really not. In many respects, I'm not.
Amazing. Love that. Is there anything you would like to say or add?
I would just like to encourage everyone to learn something new every day. And my character's motto is, if you don't know your history, you don't know what you're talking about. And I believe that's true. You have to know where you came from in order to understand you today and where you will be going tomorrow. So that's pretty much my personal mantra, and I think that we can make the world a better place if we are willing to constantly learn something new, and we are committed to being open minded and to always listen more than we talk. Listen to what other people are saying. We may not agree with it, but we certainly should be open to listening.
Amazing. Where's the best place for readers to find your book? I know books. I know some readers love signed copies. Is that an option and the best place to connect with you?
Signed copies there are always an option. People can write to me. I have a very interactive website. My books are available worldwide. Some of my books are available at historical sites like Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. Uh, but the books can be bought on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, IndieBound, any of the independent bookstores. The best place to connect with me is on my website, and that's simply name of my character, littlemisshistory.com. I have on my website links to all of my other resources. So they have an opportunity to do an instant chat or to email me, look at the books. They can go to my blog where I have a lot of articles, tips, resources, book reviews. They can go to my YouTube channel where I have teaching videos and all kinds of resources for both kids and adults, teachers and authors. So they can go there. And on my website, I also have links to my social media as well. So that's kind of like the one stop place to connect. They can just go anywhere from the website.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful we got to interview you. We'll be sure to drop those links in the show notes. And again, thank you so much.
And thank you for allowing me to talk with you with your listeners today.